Well, hey guys, thought we'd make a quick video on this hanger here today. We've got Duke, 4-year-old that's in for starting. He's coming along really nice, doing great with the saddle, and just building positive experiences for him right now in the saddle. Weight on his back, being ponied, and he's gonna likely get his first few rides here in the next several days. So doing awesome though. really almost no tension with the saddle on, which is what we're looking for. So but I wanted to talk about this hanger. So we just got done spending a little time with Duke, and one thing I like to do afterwards, once they're okay with the saddle, is what you don't want to do, let's just be clear, you don't want to do a first saddling, horse is nervous about the saddle, grabbing all the time and then tie him with it, right? It's a terrible idea. You're going to teach that horse to sit back, blow up, they feel trapped, right? It's just not going to be a good experience. What I will say is once they feel comfortable, I probably should fly spray him, he's getting bit up, but what I will say is once they feel comfortable with the saddle, they don't have any tension, right? They're pretty quiet about it. Then you could go ahead and tie him a little bit, right? So why am I tying this horse to begin with? A lot of people might say, oh, it's to give him time to process and blah blah blah, and that's true to some degree, right? But more so, I'm trying to create balance in this horse's life. So what I mean by that is when we're in the round pen, right, school's kind of in session, if you want to think of it like that. We've got an agenda that we're trying to work through, and some principles that we're trying to build in this horse. But when we're outside of there, or I'm not in a teaching mindset per se, and he knows that he's off, I always want to bring him here to this hanger and help him understand that when you're here, buddy, there's nothing to do, right? We have no agenda. You get to just kind of enjoy hanging out. Because conversely, one of the worst things you can do is you go get your colt and you're like, oh, I got to get him good with tying. So you start tying him, and they've got all this energy and they're fired up and blah blah blah, and all they do is dig holes, move back and forth, run around, whatever, and that's just going to teach them bad habits. So what you kind of want to do again is create that balance, give them an appreciation for standing. So give them a job, get them doing something, right? And that doesn't mean just exercise them. It means mentally school them, physically school them a little bit. Don't do a ton when they're young, obviously, but doing some degree of work is good. And then again, bringing them here to just kind of appreciate standing, right? Yes, it is a benefit to them to stand and process information, but horses process information, let's just say on average 1,000 times faster than the human brain. So they don't need an hour to sit here and just think. They need milliseconds to process information. However, this horse standing here, right, this is going to develop positive habits, and develop a horse understanding that when they get tied, they enjoy it because they know when they're not tied, they may have some work to do. So again, building that balance, giving this horse a reason to stand still, and then having a consistent place that allows them to do that. So let's talk about why the hanger, instead of just like tying to a hitching post. So I used to tie a bunch to big trees, right? We've specifically got a big cottonwood that had a limb that would come out at 90-degree angle and was almost just like a hanger. So I would tie to that cottonwood tree a lot. But you can really tie to anything that's got an overhang. The main point is you want the horse to be able, you can see it hangs in the center. This horse can walk around in circles if it wants, but it can't go more than a little bit this way, a little bit this way, a little bit that way, a little bit that way. But it has freedom of movement, right? So it's never going to feel trapped and sit back. At least 99.9999999% of horses aren't going to do that because it's hard for them to feel pressure, right? Downward pressure, right, is what causes horses to sit back. So excuse me, we've all seen horses tied to a trailer and they try and back up and they feel that pressure pull their head down and they try and fight it and then they blow up, right? This prevents that. It is upward pressure, right? And the horse just feels the boundaries by kind of like a pinball machine. They move left, bumps them back right, they move right, bumps them back left, and they have freedom to move all 4 feet. So they never feel trapped. They never feel like they can brace and sit back. So again, this gives them freedom of movement if they have a little bit more energy, even when you tie them here, to understand that they can move, but there's really no reason. Eventually they'll just stand still. So this is one of the best things you can do for a young horse, to tying wise, right? I don't teach any young horse to hard tie on like a trailer or a hitch and post or just a post. I always teach young horses to tie, at least for, you know, the first several months on a hanger. Eventually the process of this, because it teaches them good practices, right? Teaches them not to sit back, teaches them to appreciate standing, gives them freedom of movement, never makes them feel trapped. All the benefits of using a hanger, or some, you know, you can use, like I said, a branch of a tree that comes out, you know, put a piece of chain over it, and you know, you can tie them. You can also just, you know, tie your lead rope up there. You just got to be careful. You got to be able to make sure that whatever you're tying them with can pivot with them and swivel and doesn't just start twisting and tangling. So if you could see up there, that chain right there, it's got a swivel joint. And that's just something that's going to be important for tying, right? Because that chain's never going to bind, right? It's never going to twist. But yeah, like I said, I used to tie to a big cottonwood we've got on here, and that's also an option. I've seen guys weld up, right, single posts with an arm, basically a 90-degree arm, and hang a chain like that. You can do that also. The only thing is you just got to make sure it comes out enough so that the horse can circle around, right, without hitting that post. So I want to say this is somewhere around 10 by 10, somewhere in that range. And that seems to work pretty good. You know, you could even do something a little bit bigger if you wanted to, but this was what we had laying around at the time, and it's been up for quite a while. So it's not meant to hold the horse if they try and run off and whatever, right? That piece of hay twine will break. There's also a weak link in that chain that'll break with, I want to say, like 100 pounds of pressure, 150 pounds of pressure, something like that, maybe 100 pounds. But I mean, granted, that's a lot of pressure, but it's better than pulling the whole structure down if something were to happen. But yeah, this is not meant to hold them, right? This isn't like, you know, 6x6 posts or 8x8s or steel pipe in the ground. You know, this isn't 7-inch oil field pipe. This isn't gonna, you know, kill a horse if they freak out, right? It's just gonna, that chain or that hay twine's gonna break, and then we're just gonna retie them. But yeah, the whole purpose of this is not to force them to stand. It's to help them understand it, appreciate it, and to some degree value being tied, right? Because they know when they're not, you know, they may be going to work. So yeah, guys, there's a lot of different ways to do it, but this is a pretty good thing to do with young horses. Again, it's going to teach them a lot of good habits. So trying to think if there's anything else here. I think that's probably about it. Again, don't go and just tie a horse that's nervous about a saddle or is worried or whatever. This isn't to make them stand still. This is just to help them understand it in a controlled environment where they're not going to learn to sit back. So oh yeah, one thing I did want to mention is the progress of this, or the progression of this. So all the horses that we're making are going to be bridle horses to some degree. Maybe not all the client horses, but all the youngsters that we start for us. And how the process works is, I love basically from, you know, once they start getting handled, I'll tie them here. After we saddle, they're comfortable with it, I'll tie them here. After our first ride, we'll tie them here. And they know by that point, right, that every time they come here, they're off, right? They get to just kind of relax and stand there and hang out. And for me, what I'll begin doing is I will, at some point early on in that horse's career, teach them to hobble, right? So they've all had their feet roped. They understand how to lead by a foot. They can be stopped by a foot, and so on. So what I'll do is I'll hobble them in the round pen, and then once they're good with that, every time after we ride or do something, after those first rides, is we will hang them here, and then I'll begin hobbling them on their front feet. Because they already know when they're here, they stand still. I put those hobbles on and nothing's changed, right? They just stand still even more so, right? Because they understand, you know, they can't walk and spin around and whatever. So I use this basically as a transition into hobbling, right? Because again, they already understand that they just stand still and relax when they're tied here. I'll put the hobbles on while they're tied here. After they have a good understanding of it and they know I stand here, I put the hobbles on and they just stand. So again, it builds those good habits with the hobbles, and then eventually I untie them, and then after every ride, we don't tie them here, we just hobble them here. And they just stand because they've done it their whole life. And then eventually you can start hobbling them, you know, anywhere else, next to the trailer, if you're out working, whatever. If you want to take their stuff off and let them eat, hobble them in a pasture, you can do that. But that's how I build that. So just a little bit about the hanger, guys. A little bit about how I transition the hanger to hobbling, and I guess kind of a quick Duke update too. But yeah, this is a hanger, and Duke, our little dude, is doing awesome. But yeah, if you guys have questions, comments, as always, leave them below. We'll get back to you. And if you like content like this, please click subscribe, click like, and it means the world to us. So thank you guys, and we'll see you next time.